It is a great honor for my dear friend and colleague Jason Hua and myself to present to this distinguished audience our views on mobile internet and our company's approach to helping our partners, such as content providers and carriers, to solve many problems that modern mobile internet presents to them. When we are talking about the mobile internet, we are not just focusing on mobile devices and cellular links. We are also talking about the problems that arise from using mobile devices on Wi-Fi links, and when you have for example, cellular modems in your laptops. And in fact, we envision that pretty soon the whole world will be completely wireless, with a seamless transition between wireless links delivered through cellular networks or Wi-Fi, with all devices having the cellular capabilities and Wi-Fi capabilities. And when it happens, and it will happen sooner than we think, then the problem of mobile internet as we see it will become even more important and even more difficult to tackle. So what we think is that we cannot solve this problem on our own. We cannot approach a content provider and a carrier and say, oh, we have an ideal solution. We will solve all the problems. Just trust us. There is no magic. Only by working together, only by combining our efforts, only by using our expertise in whether we know what we are doing and where we have developed new technologies, but also working with content providers in terms of developing the applications which can use those technologies and which can use the advanced web technologies, and working with carriers with using the latest in the equipment manufacturers' approach, in their knowledge of their own networks. We can hope to solve most of those problems, but it will take a great collaborative efforts, and we hope that with you in the audience right now, we can persuade you to work with us, because we need you and you need us. So when we are talking about the growth of mobile web, mobile internet, we heard today that this is a huge growth which in fact nobody expected even 10 years ago, and in fact all our predictions about its growth, I think, are underestimations of what will happen in the future. However, we know from market research, from the firms like Thorsten's one, we know that the monetization of this huge growth in the mobile traffic is not happening that soon. The revenues that the content providers and carriers are able to grab from this increase in the traffic is not enough to cover their costs in supporting those mobile applications. Why is it happening? And there are different issues with it. One, of course, is what we CDNs often like to discuss. It's the web performance. It's the performance on the links. The other one is because the performance is so low, people try to create the versions of their web applications or of their websites which are not as rich and beautiful as what users are expecting from them, that what users get when they use laptops and fixed lines. So we will try to discuss some of the aspects of those problems, and we will hope to work with you on others. So when we are talking about this ecosystem, the mobile ecosystem, and I said before that we also include the wireless links, the Wi-Fi links in this ecosystem. One of the huge problems that we are facing and everyone else is facing. It's the heterogeneous nature. The links are not equal. They are very, very different. We have 2G users, we have 3G users, we have 4G users, but another big secret is that, of course, when I'm saying big secret, I'm a little bit trying to make a joke here, is that even when you take the 4G and 3G links, sometimes they misbehave. They behave even sometimes worse than a 2G link. So when we approach the problem of performance, of monetization of mobile experience, we need to take into account this, and we need to adjust our behavior to all those changing conditions. We cannot assume that a 4G link will behave like a good 4G link at all time. Yes, it will behave like a very good fixed line link when nobody is using it. But what happens when all the users all of a sudden are trying to download videos on their mobile devices such as tablets? Then we know that things can go wrong very quickly. So when we are talking about the problem that the content providers are facing, is we usually say, oh, you can just design your web applications and websites for different categories of end users. But when the content providers are trying to design their websites in this manner, what they are seeing is that in order to deliver the same quality of service, the same performance to the end users, they have to create different websites which look completely different and which do not meet the requirements. And again, when they compare the conversion ratios, the monetization results from a full version of the site and a watered down, a poor man's version of the site created for example, 2G users, they see that 2G users are not buying. They are not bringing the revenue that the content provider is hoping. The carriers are facing a different kind of problem. No matter how well they design their network, they always underestimate the end user's behavior. Because you cannot, it's not feasible, it's not practical to create so much overcapacity in the network to meet the peak demand that can be created by events like a World Cup or other events, like political events and so on. So their performance is unpredictable no matter how they are trying to design and how they are, what algorithms they are trying to use for dynamically load balance the traffic around the networks. So again, this is a very, very difficult problem, and only working together we can hope that we will bring a gradual improvement in those links. So when we look at the dynamics of the delivery of the content from the origin site to the end user, we see that the mobile users, they have the same problems as the fixed line users, and those problems CDNs were pretty successful in solving before. But there are additional aspects of the dynamics of the generation of the content and delivery of the content. So when we're talking about the data center, as I said, there are additional tasks that the content provider has to perform in order to create the content which is suitable for different types of devices and different types of end users. That creates an increased load on their data center and on their applications. So one of the things that we can help is to offload those tasks, the content adaptation tasks, to a content delivery network like ours. The middle mile, the internet cloud performance problem, was successfully solved by advanced technologies aiming at delivery of dynamic content or non-cacheable content. However, there are additional bottlenecks here which are involving the delivery from the core network of the wireless of the cellular carrier to the base station, and then last mile from the base station to the end user. So in order to help with solving those problems, CDNs like ours are collaborating with equipment manufacturers such as Nokia Solutions and Ericsson to be able to move our functionality to the base station as close to the end user as possible, and then leverage this computing power of those devices at the base stations to do our magic, the usual magic: caching, content adaptation, TCP optimization, and other tricks. Obviously, the closer we are to the end user, the better distributed we are. The more devices we have, we can deliver the better performance to the end users. Other technologies developed by our company and other companies in this space involve proprietary compression algorithms, which solve the following problem. As we discussed before in this conference, there is a huge disparity between the link utilization during the peak hours and those hours in the middle of the night, between 2 in the morning and 6 in the morning, when basically nobody is using internet. So the idea here is to use those hours to move some bits, some pieces of the content that the end user will most likely to access during the peak hours to the end user device, to offload the network during the peak hours. So that solves a major problem that the carriers are facing when the links are underutilized during the nighttime and overutilized, oversubscribed during the peak hours. So we have developed those technologies that can solve this problem, at least help with this problem. And also, those technologies help to offload the last mile links, the links from the base station to the mobile device. But they require us to deploy with the help of the content providers. It can be a content provider application, or it can be a mobile operator application on the phone itself to deliver this content to the end user device. So the whole framework that we have developed is called MCAN. This stands for Mobile Content Aware Network. We think that only by being able to be aware of the content in real time and being able to be aware of the end user connectivity in real time, we can deliver the performance improvements that the end user is expecting and the content providers and carriers want from us. So one of the aspects of this approach is that if a content provider has an advanced technology to create the mobile applications which can adapt to those end user conditions and the device conditions, then instead of us doing the content adaptations for the content provider, we can just in real time communicate the information about each end user, about each request to the content provider so that they can effectively create the content which is the most suitable for this end user device. So now I want to show you the video, just demonstration of some of the simple tricks that we can use. So on the left-hand side, you see the image delivered through our network on a 2G link. And on the right side, it's the same image without any content adaptation. So you see a dramatic improvement that we can deliver without actually reducing the quality of the content. In the next slide, this is an actual website, our own website. And you see how the whole page shows very fast in the browser on a 3G link through our system versus the direct link. And this example with JD recent page shows again the improvements on a good 3G link. And you see that the difference is not that much, but the user experience, nevertheless, is improved to the extent that we can sense it. And every second counts, as we know from the previous presentations. And the last example is the Suning page, and the same illustration, how the whole page shows in the browser much faster, and the user can start processing the information much faster with our system. Thank you very much, and now Jason will continue this talk.